Negotiators from the US, Russia and Ukraine set to meet in Abu Dhabi for trilateral security talks across 2 days. It's the first time the three sides will sit down and speak together since Russia's full-scale invasion in 2022. Our meeting comes after talks in Moscow between Russian President Vladimir Putin, US envoy Steve Witkoff, and President Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner. US President Trump appeared optimistic that both sides could be open to making a deal after he met with President Zelenskyy also on Thursday on the sidelines of the World Economic Forum in Davos. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelenskyy says the talks in the UAE are, quote, a step towards ending the war, adding that discussions are likely to focus on territorial concessions.
Питання Донбасу ключове. Його будуть обговорювати і обговорювати модальності, як три сторони це бачать в Абу Dhabi.
Well, Nick Harper is covering the story for CNN in Washington, D.C. Nick, over peace in Ukraine, we've seen hopes raised, hopes doused, raised again, put out again over the last few years since 2022. Any more reason for hope this time around?
Well, there's certainly been plenty of diplomacy, Wei-Su, over the course of the last few days. There is this renewed optimism, therefore, that holding these talks in Abu Dhabi might lead to a breakthrough, in particular because this is the very first time that all three countries have sat down together, potentially in the same room. And bear in mind, this conflict has been going on for nearly 4 years, so it can't be understated how significant that step alone is. But bear in mind, this is the first meeting. So is this going to be about conversations or confrontations? That in itself is not clear. The US, of course, very much the driving force behind all of this, trying to push forward negotiations and act in that mediator role between them. But despite the significance of these three-way talks, once again, I guess there are really low expectations of a proper breakthrough coming out of these talks in the UAE. And part of that is that concern that despite the diplomacy, this is once again another round of high-level talks. We've seen plenty of those over the course of the last year. Now, Donald Trump certainly wants to get a deal done. He even said when he was in Davos that President Putin and President Zelenskyy would be stupid not to do a deal. But I think there is this weariness in Europe that really this is just continuing month after month. And we are seeing, despite the diplomacy, continued attacks by Russia on Ukraine. They're certainly not stopping on those. So some hope, some expectations, but overall potentially no breakthrough coming out of this summit.
Well, the US may be the driving force in bringing these different parties to the negotiating table, but can it bring anything more for those parties at the table to reach any more agreement this time around?
Well, I think part of the problem, Wei-Su, is that there are still major sticking points in all of this. Sticking points that have been restated by the Kremlin in just the last few hours. Now, from Ukraine's point of view, it needs security guarantees from the US and other European allies that they will have Ukraine's back in the future to safeguard it against any future potential attacks by Russia. President Zelenskyy on Thursday said that a framework document on security guarantees had been agreed with the US. Not signed yet, that'll happen when a peace deal is done. But that side of things seems to be coming together. The bigger problem, though, is territory. And we've heard from the Kremlin spokesperson, Dmitry Peskov, in the course of the last couple of hours, once again reiterating Moscow's position that it wants the whole of the Donbass region, including territory that Ukraine still currently holds. Peskov said that Ukrainian armed forces must leave the territory of Donbass. This is a very important condition. Now, the US proposal on the table is to create a demilitarized free economic zone in the Donbass region. It's not clear that Moscow will go for that. And there is also another issue that seems to have surfaced. Moscow now demanding that frozen Russian assets, about $5 billion worth, is used for reconstruction in its own territory. President Zelenskyy already ruling that one out, simply calling it nonsense. So some serious bones of contention still to be worked through. Unclear if that'll happen during the course of these three-way talks.
So those frozen assets, security guarantees and territory. Thanks for that, Nick Harper reporting for CNN live from Washington, D.C.